Hey guys, how's it going? Jamie here. Hope you're doing well. Most of you guys know me at this point, but I'll introduce myself anyway in case I've got new people watching. I am Jamie Trull. I am typically a profit strategist and financial literacy coach. That is what I focus on most of the time. That's what I teach. I teach understanding finances, accounting, taxes, all of those things to self-employed individuals and business owners. It's what I love. But lately we've been talking all about stimulus options. And I am so hopeful that soon we're like coming out of the dark and we can go back to some different things that we used to talk about before all of this madness happened. But for now, I know that the majority of you guys have questions around this stimulus stuff. So I am committed to making sure that I'm walking you through all of that I am keeping you up to date on the developments, which are still happening. It's less often we're seeing developments now, but they're still happening enough, enough to keep us on our toes, right? So I'm hearkening back to my CPA roots, and I've been spending a lot of time watching the new guidance and bringing all of that to you, hopefully in a way that makes a little bit more sense and streamlines things a little bit. So hi guys, good morning. Good morning, good morning. So today it is a yucky, gross Wednesday here. Normally I say happy Wednesday, y'all, but it just feels like it's been raining for several days here. It's a little yucky. I'm in a sweater, even though it's like 80 degrees outside. It's one of those kind of days. But anyway, I see you guys. We have got a bunch of people joining me. I am broadcasting this live on Facebook in my Facebook group, Financial Literacy for Women Business Owners. If you're not in it, come join it. That's where I'm answering all of your questions. Even if you're a man, come on and join us. We have some awesome men in there as well. I'm also broadcasting this on my Facebook page, Balance CFO, Jamie Trull. Go give it a like. I appreciate it. And on my YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe. Okay, so I'm glad I look excited. I don't necessarily feel excited today. I don't know. Wrong comment. See, I can't even. I'm glad I look excited. Today is just kind of like one of those yucky, gross days. I don't know what's going on today, but I'm here for y'all. I'm here for you. Okay. So, couple of updates importantly at the top of the hour that I want to give you guys. Let's talk about PPP real quick. PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. That is your potentially forgivable loan. That is the one that basically was supposed to be done June 30th, right? Was supposed to be the date that you could not apply anymore to get a PPP loan passed. So, a lot of people in the last kind of like 11th hour were scrambling to get those applications in with the couple of banks that were still taking them. And some people were having challenges. Some people were getting their loans stalled out and were worried they weren't going to get their money. Well, literally like, maybe not 11th hour, but it was like the 8th or 9th hour at least when the Senate decided, and we don't even know they were talking about this. The Senate just decided, you know what, we're going to extend it another 5 weeks. They still have $130 billion left of this money. So remember in the beginning, a lot of you guys have been here since the beginning, and you remember the first round of funding that went like that and was snapped up by all the big companies and everything. Well, the second round has been a little bit more tepid, where people have not been as likely to jump in. And I think that's because of the changing rules, the confusion around things. It's made people a little bit worried. And a lot of people even gave back their money because they were like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So it's interesting because at the beginning, we didn't think this money was going to last. It has. And I think a lot of you guys are probably in that spot where you're like, man, if only I had known, right? Like, and that's what I'm hearing a lot of, which is, man, if I had known they were going to extend it, I wouldn't have done this. Or if I had known, I would have waited to apply, et cetera, et cetera. And I totally feel you on all of that. And honestly, I think a little bit of it is by design. If I'm being honest, like if I give you my opinion, is that they honestly want people to like get in there, right? Like they weren't going to tell us ahead of time, hey, we're thinking about extending the deadline, because they wanted as many people to go in and apply and not wait it out, because they're trying to get people off of unemployment. They're not giving us all the information, number one, because they don't know it all and it's changing. It really is changing. And number two, because they're trying to incent certain behavior and they want people into these loans sooner rather than later, right? because they're trying to spur that economic recovery. So I think there's a little bit of that going on here where rules are still changing, and it is so frustrating because had we known, right? Like I keep thinking about, man, it's tough because I teach intentionality around business finances. And I think almost everybody at this point is saying with regards to something, throughout this process, you're probably saying, you know what? If I had known the whole picture and like what was going to happen, I would have planned this differently, right? If I had known that I had 24 weeks and not 8 weeks, I wouldn't have done all of this. And some people were paying bonuses to their employees to get those payments out, all of that kind of stuff to spend their money. Whereas now they wish they had that money. So I understand where that comes in. Again, I think they're trying to incent certain behavior, and they're not always going to give us all of that information up front. But right now we're in a situation where we have to go based on what is the rules at the time the rules exist, right? Unfortunately. So I'll continue, though, to tell you when those rules are changing because they probably will again, let's be honest. Now, I do think the forgiveness rules have been relaxed quite a bit, but they are still confusing, especially if you're an employer. So for those of my employers out there, I've talked about this some, but if you've got a PPP loan, you really need to go spend some time in looking up like Safe Harbor and making sure you're able to get Safe Harbor. That is the best way to make sure you can get that PPP loan forgiven, is to make sure that you are bringing back your FTEs, or that you can at least check one of those Safe Harbor boxes. I'm not going to get into all of what that is today because that's a whole live probably in and of itself. I may be doing a YouTube video about that. I'd love to hear what you guys have questions on, because I'm probably going to be filming a YouTube video later today, and I haven't decided what the topic is yet. So if you guys have something that you want to hear about, let me know. The couple of things I'm kind of thinking about doing one that is specifically about Safe Harbor for PPP and what that means. I'm also thinking about doing one for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, because that's the one where you can actually get paid time for your employees who need to be out because of maybe they test positive for COVID, maybe a family member did, something like that, where they're having to quarantine, or maybe they're having to be home because they have kids at home and their kids don't have childcare, their child's care is closed, etc. So let me know what you guys are interested in hearing. I know we're seeing a pickup in COVID cases. So my husband's work even had one. So he's back home now. He's fine. He's clear, thankfully. But there's been a pickup in COVID cases that are happening around the country. So I think we need to delve a little bit deeper into that Families First Coronavirus Response Act at some point, because you can get paid leave for people. Okay. So yes, Martha, PPP, it will. So where we're at with PPP extension, I didn't finish my thought on that. Thank you. Is the Senate passed it last night that it's going to be extended through August 8th. But the House still has to pass it and the president has to sign it. I see zero reason that would not happen. Now, could they potentially add some things into that or change some language? Or yeah, sure. So we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it looks like it's going to be extended. Right now, there is no provision for a second PPP for people who have already received and spent their PPP. So I know that's something that some of you guys have been adversely affected. Maybe that money is long gone at this point. You got it and you spent it, and you're still in a place where you need a second one. I can see there has been some talk of that in Congress. I think they're kind of waiting to see what's going to go on with COVID, what's going to happen with the second wave, what's going to happen with this remaining $130 billion, because maybe if there's not enough people who are taking that money, they might apportion that and say, you know what, okay, fine, we're going to open this up for a second round. But if there is a second round, it's probably not going to be open to everyone that's got a PPP. There probably will be requirements such as your business has to be down maybe 50% over what it was previously, that kind of thing for relief. So I do think if we continue to see this issue, which I think what we're seeing now is, okay, things, at least where I'm at, things are open, but then all of a sudden they're having to close down because something happens. Or, we're kind of in this ping pong situation where there's so much uncertainty. I definitely can see them continuing to put out relief efforts as necessary and change the ones maybe that they already have to be more fit for purpose in the current time. So keep watching. I'll make sure that I keep you updated with any changes that occur. But I'm hopeful that maybe they will have an ability for some of you guys to be able to get a second round if your business has been significantly impacted. Okay. Yeah. So this one, Steve. Okay. Yes. So as a sole prop, you are in luck because as a sole prop, there is an easy form that you can do. You're watching me on YouTube. I have a whole YouTube video on the easy form, and I have one on the full forgiveness form as well. So for you guys who want to see me kind of walk through that, and go grab my tracker if you haven't. I have a PPP tracker that we've been working so hard on. For those of you guys who are on my list for the PPP tracker, I think there's like 6,500 of you that have signed up and gotten this thing, that got like 3 emails from me over the last 2 days where we were just making small tweaks. So bear with us as we kind of test this out. And then different people have different situations and they tell us like, hey, actually, this isn't working exactly as we want it to. So I'm taking feedback in and making changes as necessary. Hopefully we'll get to a steady state soon, but there's a lot of calculations specifically when it comes to the full forgiveness form when you have employees. But if you don't have employees, the easy form is actually going to be really easy and you can pay yourself the whole amount. So go check out, I have another YouTube video also for self-employed people, specifically on why and how they can take the entire amount in most cases as their own owner pay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let me see what we got here. Let's see. Safe harbor is not something for sole proprietors with no employees. Correct. You don't need safe harbor because you already are. So what safe harbor basically does is it says you don't need to worry about what happened with your employees over your 8 or 24 weeks, depending on which you choose, right? With regards to what you paid your employees and with regards to how many employees you had, like how many FTE you had. So if you laid off some people, as long as you're able to get safe harbor, then what happened during that period doesn't really matter as much. Okay. Now, if you don't get safe harbor, then what happens during that 8 to 24 week period really matters. So I get a lot of questions about like, how does forgiveness work if I need to furlough employees? And it honestly is pretty complicated. It's pretty complicated because if you get safe harbor, you're good. If you don't get safe harbor, then you got some things to worry about. And then you're going to have to go through that whole calculation. And I really recommend my tracker in that case to see how much your forgiveness may be reduced. But you guys, if you have employees, just get safe harbor because then you're not going to have to worry about all those crazy calculations and getting your forgiveness reduced. Everybody should be able to get their PPP fully forgiven. Now with the 24-week option, you should be able to do it. It just might take a little bit of strategy and awareness of the rules to get there, but you should be able to do it. I really believe that. And the banks don't want to not forgive these either. So just, they really, really don't. So yes, 100%, you can get PPP with no employees. I have a post in the group. So I don't know if you're watching me from my Facebook page or my Facebook group. If you're watching it from Financial Literacy for Women Business Owners, go to the top of the page. I just wrote a whole thing. I wrote 2 different summaries. Okay. And if you're not in the group, come join us. balancedcfo.com/group. So I just wrote 2 summaries that basically say, okay, here's the stimulus options available to you if you don't have employees. And I have a whole post going through PPP, EIDL, unemployment that really just gives you the basics of how they work and what they are and how they interact together. And then I have a similar post that's pinned to the top as well that is for employers. So if you do have employees, I just finished those this morning because we're getting a lot of new people into the group and I want to make sure everybody's fully up to speed because I think you get in the group and it's like inundation with all these different questions and some of them are really detailed. And if you're just kind of now starting to realize like, oh, there might be some things available for me that I didn't realize, it can get a little bit overwhelming. So start with those posts. They also link to some good videos and some good resources that are already exist that can kind of get you up to speed. But 100%, you can get PPP with no employees. It's going to be based on your net profit, basically, in your business. Assuming you're a sole proprietor or something like that, you file a Schedule C with your taxes. Yes, you can get it as long as you have a net profit in your business. And I'm just going to put this up there because it's sweet. Thank you. Thank you. This is, it's been an honor to be able to help you guys with all of this. Safe harbor is by 12/31. It gets a little complicated though. I will say that a million times. I don't know why they have all these dates when you look in the forgiveness applications. So it talks about December 31 being the safe harbor, or if you apply for forgiveness earlier, which by the way, you can apply for forgiveness before the end of your 24-week period. If you've used up all your money, you can apply for forgiveness, assuming your bank is taking applications. As of July 1st right now, a lot of banks are not yet. So they don't have a process. They're trying to get their portals set up where they're going to ask you for all that information. But a lot of banks aren't accepting applications yet for forgiveness. So that's part of it. But you can technically apply early. And, at the time you apply, you want to make sure that you essentially all your employees' salaries and hourly wages are back to what they previously were as of basically February 15th. And that you have the same number of FTEs as you did previously. There's also another safe harbor that's an interesting one that honestly is a little bit of a catch-all, which is if your business, as long as you keep salary and hourly wages consistent and you haven't reduced them by more than 25%, if you could not, during your 8 or 24 weeks, operate at your normal level because of the rules around social distancing and different like OSHA compliance rules and health regulations, which may mean shutting down your business if you had to do that during that time period, right? Then you can get safe harbor actually like that. So for those of you who got the loan early when maybe you were shut down for part of it, you might be able to just like check that box for safe harbor as long as you didn't reduce employees' base salary or hourly wages by more than 25%. You might be able to check that box for safe harbor and be good to go. And your FTE count even doesn't matter in that case. But the best case to make sure you can get safe harbor is get your FTEs to where they were by the time that 8 or 24 weeks is up. And when you apply for forgiveness, try to apply right away. Don't like lay off people and then try to apply because that can impact you potentially. So just some things to be aware of, but everybody should be able to get there. I really believe they're what I have seen coming from Treasury is while they've made this unnecessarily complicated, they also have put a lot of windows in here because I think they know the banks are like, look, we don't want a $900 loan for 2 years or for 5 years sitting on our balance sheet. They don't want that. They would make more, they would lose more money, spend more money servicing that loan than they're going to make in 1% interest, right? So there is going to be a hope. Like, just make sure your documentation looks good. And I tell you what, I've had a couple of people tell me already that they took the PPP tracker to their bank. Like if you're working with a credit union and you have that opportunity, and some of their banking people have been like, wow, this is great, right? Like have buttoned up really good documentation that shows you put your due diligence in, have support for all those costs. And the bank's just going to be like, check. Awesome, right? Like that is what they want to see. They're not going to go through these things with a fine tooth comb because they don't want to find anything. And they're actually, you certify that you've done all the calculations correctly and it's correct to the best of your knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. They're going off of your certification of that. They want you, they don't want you to come with the forgiveness application where $1,200 isn't forgiven. They don't want that. They're not interested in that. They want to forgive this whole thing. Now the EIDL Advance will be interesting because the EIDL Advance, if you got it, right, the $1,000 per employee, the grant does get subtracted off of your PPP forgiveness per the rules. Is there a chance they change that? I mean, have you been watching for the last couple of months? Who the heck knows? So there are some people who are wanting to give back their EIDL Advance. And I'm like, no. Hang on to that thing because you don't want to be that person that regrets giving it back when all of a sudden Treasury comes out with new rules and says, you know what, we're going to scrap that part. We're just not even going to deal with it. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But could it? I mean, in this world we're living in, sure. Pretty much anything can happen. So just that would be my thought on that. Okay. So I don't know the technicalities around that. I think that seems like that would be something that you would be able to document as a viable reason that you are not paying that person because they're on disability. So I would think that should not. Again, there's a lot of things you can document as well. Like if you had to fire them for cause and you couldn't hire someone similarly qualified, which you would potentially need to document the fact that you couldn't hire someone similarly qualified, that kind of thing. But if you ask them back and they refused to come back because they were happy on unemployment, you are supposed to report them, which it's not really clear what how to even report employees in all states. So they've said that there will be more information in there. I'm very curious about what's going on with this vegan conversation. Are you asking me if I want to go vegan? Not particularly, at least not right now. Don't take away my food right now, okay? It's one of the only things I got. This is awesome. I'm just enjoying these sub conversations about veganism. Although I wholly respect it. My in-laws are actually vegan and it's been a really good change for them. So nothing against it. That's the kind of mood I'm in this morning, you guys. I'm just, I'm all over the place. 100%. Yes, Uber and Lyft drivers can get PPP, and you should. Go check it out, Tanya. Go look in your 2019 taxes if you have them. It's easiest to apply for PPP if you have your taxes. By the way, guys, red alert, it's July. It's July 1st today. If anybody just kind of freaked out because they have taxes due on July 15th, remember that April 15th deadline got moved to July 15th. Your taxes are due. Your estimated taxes are due. If you pay estimated taxes for your business, which you probably should be if you have self-employment income, those are due. Okay, your state taxes are probably due. Got a lot of taxes coming up here. And from what I saw actually yesterday, there does not seem to be an appetite to move that tax deadline again. So don't wait for that. Now, could they do it on the 14th? Who the heck knows? But I would not count on that at this point. They seem to be pretty firm in that July 15th. Get your taxes done. But anyway, back to my point. Yes, if you have a Schedule C in your taxes, go find that Schedule C. Look for line 31. If that line 31 is positive, divide it by 12, multiply it by 2.5. That is the amount of loan you can be approved for as an independent contractor, which is like an Uber and Lyft driver. And you can get that amount fully forgiven as owner pay. Okay. Wow. It just got dark on the vegan conversation. I'm gonna move on from that. Okay. Let's see. Okay. S Corp. So am I technically an LLC or sole proprietorship? You are not. So, okay. S Corps are different. S Corp, you should be paying yourself a salary via W-2 wages if you're an S Corp. So that's the difference. Now, what it is usually S Corps are an LLC, which elects S Corp, or a C Corp who's electing S Corp. I'm assuming you're an LLC who's elected to be treated as an S Corp for tax purposes because you're trying to save on taxes. Can be a good strategy if you do it correctly and if you keep up with all the rules. But one of the things here with S Corps is you should be paying yourself W-2 wages. You should not be taking everything out in owner's draws. Number one, it's a really big IRS red flag to do so. Number two, it doesn't count for PPP. So what you can get to pay yourself on PPP is based only on W-2 wages if you're an S Corp or a C Corp. Draws do not count. Draws are technically investment income anyway. That's how they're kind of more seen, right? You don't pay payroll taxes on draws because you're basically saying it's not my payroll, so I don't need to take payroll taxes on it. So they're not going to let you use it as your payroll for PPP. So now some people who didn't have this reasonable wage that they were paying themselves or didn't even realize they were supposed to be are kind of in a bad spot because they can't pay themselves with PPP. If this is you, come on over. I gotta say it. I have a basics course. It just rolled out. We had several hundred of you guys jump into it. I'm getting really good feedback so far, which is awesome. I'm glad so many of you guys are doing it and liking it. It does talk about entity types, and it has a specific bonus module in it that talks all about S Corps. So I'm not going to spend much time talking about it, but balancecfo.com/basics. balancecfo.com/basics. You can go check out the course because it can be really helpful and it can save you a lot of money on taxes. And also it can, there are a lot of things you need to be doing as an S Corp, and you want to make sure that you are paying attention to what those things are. So nobody likes an IRS audit. They are not fun. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, Bree's got me. Hey, Bree, what you got me on taxes? This is my My tax bestie. Okay, in terms of taxes, if you aren't ready to file your 2019 tax return by July 15th, you can file an extension. Yes, you can always file an extension for sure. If you don't have an accountant and need more information, yeah, so go check out Bree's. Bree, put your info in there. Put the link to the group. Money taxes. I can't remember what it is. Bree does some really good live trainings as well. She's also on YouTube. Go subscribe to her channel. She has some really good stuff that focuses in on a lot of the tax stuff. But you can file an extension. Now, if you are, though, going to be applying for PPP, I do think it's a good idea to get your taxes done. Or if you're going to be applying for PPP, or if you're going to be applying for forgiveness for PPP, it's going to make it a whole heck of a lot easier if you have a final 2019 Schedule C to go by. So I do think it's a good idea not to wait all the way till October 15th. Now, you can file an extension and then do it in August, but unfortunately, that's not really what we do, right? We file an extension and then we wait, and now it's like 3 days before October 15th, and then we're scrambling again. So if you can, get it done. Okay. All right. Thanks, Bree. So that's my course, balancedcfo.com/basics. And this is Bree's Facebook group, Money Taxes and Finances for Small Business. All right. Let's see. Okay, so how about if S Corp doesn't do payroll, asking for a friend that has an LLC and filing taxes as S Corp? Yeah, so if you don't do payroll, that means you don't have W-2 wages. That's what I mean by W-2 wages. If you're likely not paying yourself, if you don't give yourself a W-2, if she doesn't give herself or himself a W-2 at the end of the year, then no, you cannot get it because you don't have W-2 wages. So that's what paying yourself on payroll usually means. It means you're withholding taxes to the federal government, et cetera, et cetera. I'm saying et cetera a lot this morning. I don't ever say that. It's kind of weird. Okay, looking back. Let's see. Stacy says, I'm a self-employed accountant working through all this. No decline in revenue. Husband is on my case to file for PPP, assuming app window. Okay. So here's what I'm going to say about that. You do certify. Read the certifications that you're making on anything you're applying for, you guys. Okay. Now, I am aware of the fact that with PPP, we don't need to be overly worried about PPP because they did come out and say that, look, you will be assumed to have made the certification that you need the PPP loan in good faith. And they are not going to be actively going out to find people who got loans under 2 million and saying, hey, you didn't actually need this loan. So it depends. So risk-wise, will you probably be fine? Yes. But there's also an ethical and moral point to this as well. So I think that's something, and I think that's probably what you're struggling with. And I just tend to be one of those people that, remember, this is money that could go to people that need it as well. So I am a proponent of reading the certifications. If you don't feel good about your ability to check yes on those certifications, don't. That's what I think. But a lot of people have different feelings on all of that. So, you do you. Can I put up Bree's Facebook page again, please? Hang on. Let me find it for you, Vicki. It's gone way back. Okay, here we go. Money, taxes, and finances for small businesses, or for small business. Go check her out. Bree is also one of the people who did the PPP tracker with me. So it's coming, like you guys are getting it from me, but that was a brain trust. That was myself. That was Bree Beers, and that was Kelly Vincent, who's also a CPA in Texas, that put that thing together, because that is too much for one person to do. Okay, yeah. So extension is to file, not to pay. So you may have to make some estimated payments if you think you are going to owe on your taxes. Because if you don't, you're going to get assessed some potential interest and penalties on that. So that is a common misconception, that people think they can just file an extension and be good. But if you think you're going to have to pay, that won't necessarily work. Okay, so this one, there is some debate over. I'll tell you my interpretation of this. So you're talking about the economic injury disaster loan, right? The economic injury disaster loan, you can get a $1,000 grant that comes as well. The grant is forgivable gets a little bit squirrelier if you have PPP because it gets subtracted off your forgiveness. But there's also a loan. You get invited to a loan portal. They give you an offer for a loan. If you accept that loan, there are a lot of things to pay attention to in that. Make sure you are really reading that contract. I have a couple of YouTube videos over on my channel. My channel is just Jamie Trull. You can find me, just search for Jamie Trull and subscribe to my channel. But I have a couple of videos about EIDL, one of which has like 70,000 views, which is crazy, by the way. So go check that out. I walk through the contract and some things to look at. My understanding, again, not a lawyer. Important that I say that. I'm a CPA, not a lawyer. And some of these are kind of more legally in the way they're written. But my understanding of the contract is this. There is a section that says limits on distribution of assets. And it talks about not kind of making distributions to owners. Now, if you are an S Corp or a C Corp, your owner draws are distributions from your company, okay? They're distributions of profit. If you are an S Corp or C Corp, again, going back to the conversation we had earlier, you should be paying yourself W-2 wages. You can pay yourself W-2 wages, no problem. You're paying payroll taxes on that, that's fine. EIDL doesn't impact that, okay? But taking additional amounts out, as most S Corps and C Corps do, as owner draws or as dividends or anything like that, that to me is a distribution of an asset. And that section doesn't just say you can't use EIDL funds for it. It says you can't do it. And at least that's how I read it. Again, caveat, that is how I read it. Different business lawyers, different CPAs may see it differently. That is how I read that section. And I think the rationale behind that is to say, look, if you've got an emergency loan outstanding, why are you paying investment income to your owners, right? Like think of if you were a big public company, that'd be like taking a bunch of government money as a loan and then paying big bonuses in the form of dividends to your share owners. Like that wouldn't look too good, right? So I think that's really where it comes from, is that those distributions are really more investment type income. You're not paying payroll taxes on it. If you want to like instead put more money into your salary, you could do that, but you're going to have to pay payroll taxes on it. And then that kind of wipes out the benefit of being an S Corp to begin with. So that's my approach on it. Now, if you're a sole proprietor, LLC, independent contractor, or anything like that, this doesn't affect you. You probably should not pay yourself more than you would normally pay yourself if you're going to use EIDL funds to pay yourself. Y'all probably know, because you know me, I don't love the idea of taking the EIDL loan to pay yourself as an independent contractor, sole proprietor, etc. I just don't love it. The reason I don't love it is you're financing your paycheck. You're going to have to pay that back with interest. The interest is not small, you guys. balancecfo.com/EIDL tracker. Okay. Wish I could put this up there. balancecfo.com/EIDL tracker. Check that out, because the interest is not small and it adds up over time, and you still have interest even in the first year when you aren't making payments. So just be aware of some of those things when you're making decisions. I think a better usage for EIDL loan funds is for operating costs in your business, to keep your business going, to generate revenue. Obviously, you can't use it to expand, but you can use it for inventory that helps you generate revenue, right? So things like that are going to be better usages for the funds. Better ways to pay yourself, specifically if you're a sole proprietor or LLC, but also in some instances if you're a small business owner, would be PPP and PUA, PUA, unemployment, basically. Those are better options to pay yourself than EIDL is. That is my answer to that. Do you have to pay yourself? I mean, no. I don't know why you wouldn't. You could pay employees with it instead and not pay yourself. Okay. This is a really big hot button questions. There's a really big hot button question right now, which is, can you use it to pay owed taxes? So first of all, definitely no if they're not very clearly business related taxes. Right? Because that's the thing for most businesses. Most of you guys are pass-through businesses because you're either a sole proprietor, LLC, S Corp, meaning you pay taxes at the personal level. So if you have owed taxes, a lot of times it's difficult to parse that between, unless the only income you have at all is your self-employment income, and then you kind of know. Otherwise, you don't really know. It's kind of commingled with any other taxes that you're paying. Like if your spouse has a job or something like that, it's really hard to sort of parse out what is what in that scenario. That said, in some instances, can you pay payroll taxes with it, your own payroll taxes with it, which are like your estimated taxes? I mean, maybe, right? And I'll say this about EIDL funds, because I think there's a lot of, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? I'm scared to get in trouble. Okay. The best thing that you can do, right, is to use it in the way. So the easiest thing to do is to use it for definitely things. You don't have to use this by next month, right? Like use it for the things are going to count as your official usages of EIDL. That may free up some money to pay your taxes because now you're using EIDL to pay your rent, right? Or something like that. So I just think it's easiest to pick the things that are like clearly going to be, if under audit, right? And your audit maybe 5 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, that you won't necessarily get audited, not to scare people, but if you did, and they said, what did you spend these funds on? And you gave them this tracker and it had a bunch of like stuff that's kind of questionable, like even payments to yourself or like reimbursements to yourself for money you paid. A lot of people are asking me that, taxes. I just think it's easy, like pay your insurance with it, pay for your inventory with it, pay for even like education with it, like pay for things you would normally pay for, pay your contractors you normally have with it. I don't know, pay the website hosting fees, like pay the things that you normally pay for your business that are general working capital in nature. It's going to be easier. It's going to be easier. Even if it takes 9 months to pay all of that, like do that instead of kind of these things that are borderline. You can also you can always call the SBA disaster line and ask them. What they tell you is not binding, but it's helpful. It could be helpful in an audit. If you called them and said, hey, can I pay my taxes with this? And they said, yes, you could document like, okay, I talked to this person on this day. Please make sure you document though, you guys, because you're not going to remember this stuff in 3 to 5 years if somebody comes knocking. The tracker, again, a great place to document these things, balancecfo.com/EIDL tracker. Okay. balancecfo.com/EIDL tracker. And indeed, you can pay your 1099 contractors with EIDL funds. Now, I probably wouldn't go hire like 10 new 1099 contractors. That might be a little bit expansion-y, but yeah, if you got some 1099 contractors, sure. Okay. Let's see. Yes, you can. So LLC, S Corp. Oh, so LLC, if you're an S Corp, you can't use your K1. You use your W-2 wages. So you can't use your own, if you mean your owner draw off your K1, no, you got to use, it's only wages, only W-2 wages that you paid yourself in 2019. That is the basis. Okay. I don't know how to write. I don't think I can. I guess I can post a comment. Let me see. I don't know if this will come through to all the let's see. I'm going to try this out for the first time. I know it's tough when I am saying these things fast, but this will also be on replay so that you can see it. Try that one. So there we go. It should be posting. Okay, here's my post. Then I'll share my own post. So it's the short answer is balancecfo.com/EIDL tracker, or here's the long address if you're going to use that. Yeah, or Martha's got me. You guys got me. I'm behind. Okay. So that is really the main stuff. I had a couple of questions that came in that I did want to answer as well that came in separately. Somebody was asking me about utilities and what counts for utilities for PPP. So it's mostly like electricity, gas, that kind of thing. Transportation is one that they list, but there has been like very little guidance on what the heck that means. So, is that mileage for your employees? Is that gas for your car for a business vehicle? I still have not seen anything that really tells me and would make me comfortable enough actually claiming transportation expenses. Also, I really think with this PPP extension, right, like 24 weeks, don't try, like that means that those things, those like questionable things that you were like, can I deduct part of my cell phone? Can I deduct part of my like home internet bill? These things that we were trying to do that were like kind of like a little bit tougher to support. We shouldn't have to worry about those as much anymore because now you have 24 weeks to spend the funds. Just use it mostly on payroll. you had a long time to spend that money. So I wouldn't get caught up in a lot of that if you don't have to. Now, if you have to, if you still have funds to spend, then, I'll keep trying to dig into to get more information and more advice for you guys on some of these like little things and whether you can count them or not. But again, it's always easiest to just do the low hanging fruit, right? Do you have enough costs that definitely qualify that you don't have to, over a 24-week period, it's a long time, that you don't have to kind of cherry pick sort of your home office square foot deduction and stuff like that we aren't really sure if banks are going to take or not. Okay. And then I have gotten the question a lot around, so if I'm paying for things with PPP, can I pay for the same things with the EIDL? Because for a long time, it was just, you can't use them for the same purpose. You can't use them for the same purpose, which is still true. There has been some discussion around what does same purpose mean, right? If you get PPP and EIDL, does that mean because you use PPP for payroll, you can't use EIDL for payroll at all? I have heard the SBA give two answers to this in direct, stark contrast with one another. Okay. I'll tell you which one I believe to be true here in a minute, but I have heard the answer that no, if you use PPP for any payroll, rent, utilities, if you claimed $10 of utilities on your PPP, you can't use that EIDL for any of those same things, even during a different period. I have heard the SBA say that. I have also directly talked to an SBA rep that said, no, you can. They just can't be during the same time period, which is like, duh, because you can't spend two different money at once, right? But like the official use of PPP can't be payroll for, July 1st through July 15th and EIDL on your tracker be July 1st through July 15th. You can't do both. So that makes sense, right? That makes more sense to me that it's like, look, okay, I'm going to use PPP for this period. It paid for payroll for 2.5 months, right? And then I'm going to use EIDL starting here. Now, I would make sure it's really clear, the separation, that there's not like an overlap, that you're not taking a pay period and like dividing it up, right? Like make sure it's very clear what's what and when one ended and when the other began. That's the interpretation I'm inclined to believe. And I think the SBA, and for those of you guys who have talked to the SBA, you know that you don't always get you get a few different stories sometimes if you call and ask the same question to a few different people. So to me, I think it makes sense, that you would use them for the same purpose, but for different time periods and be completely fine. There was somebody that gave back their PPP loan, I know, because the SBA told them that. That was the person that told me that they had said, no, they said I couldn't spend it and I'd rather have the bigger EIDL loan because I need money to pay for rent for a longer period of time, payroll for a longer period of time, and that EIDL loan's a lot bigger. So they gave back their PPP because they didn't want to not be able to then use their EIDL on those things. And I don't agree that that's the proper interpretation. Okay. You cannot make changes to the EIDL tracker template. It is locked. The only cells you can import or you can input into are in yellow. That is by design to protect the integrity of the formulas and everything that are in there. If you have any issues with it, send an email to support@balancedcfo.com. I'm not sure what you're trying to change, but go send an email there. Yes. Can you take the PPP if you're sole proprietor and still making money at one 1099 gig, but not the other? PPP is not dependent on you not making money. So it's not like unemployment where you can only make a certain amount or you only get it when you're not working or et cetera. PPP, and in fact, what makes sense, so here, if I were to say a way you could use all three of these things, if that's what you needed and wanted, right? A lot of times what you would do is take unemployment at first, like maybe when you're fully shut down, not really making any money, you're on unemployment, you're getting that extra $600 that you get from unemployment. That's a lot of times where people will start, right? So you use up what you can there. It's the most beneficial. Now, again, people a lot of times got PPP, when they were still shut down. And that was because we didn't know how long we were going to be able to get PPP for, right? But it's most beneficial, like where you kind of win the the award, I think, is if you can say, okay, I'm going to use PUA, get my extra $600 until like things start ramping back up, and then I can't qualify for PUA anymore. Now I'm going to start using my PPP funds and use that to pay myself, and I should get 2.5 months worth of owner pay. Regardless of what type of owner you are, you're limited to what you can pay yourself to 2.5 months worth of pay based on 2019. Pay yourself that amount, right? EIDL, get it, and use if you want the loan. Now, I think I'm always anti-loan, like not blanketly, but debt, unless you need it to keep your business going, I would caution against debt. Now, we are in a time period, however, where there is a lot of uncertainty. So I have a bit of a different thought about that, because debt is almost more of an insurance policy. Just make sure you're really judicious, set it aside. If you don't need it, don't use it, okay? Unless you're completely fine with having that additional debt. But debt, it comes back. So, but if you have big operating expenses and things like that you need to pay, right? If you've got rent, if you've got like things in your business that you need to pay to keep your business going, then EIDL is best for something like that. And then you can kind of supplement with the EIDL loan and use PUA and PPP to pay yourself. And then hopefully everything's okay, but who knows? And if it isn't, hopefully the government comes out with some more relief options that can help us pass that time period. Okay. Yes, good question. Can you talk about being able to take the expenses on your taxes or not if you paid them with PPP? All right, so 2 things. It depends on your entity type how this works in practice, but this is true. So technically, PPP forgiven amounts are not taxable income. Most grants usually are. We're expecting that the EIDL grant will be taxable income. You'll have to save it for taxes, just like any other revenue you make in your business. PPP, but PPP is where it's not taxable income. So what they've said, though, what the IRS came out and said is, yeah, fine, it's not taxable income, but now you can't deduct anything you use your PPP for. Okay. So what does that mean? That means if you're, let's say you're an S Corp or a C Corp, right? In that scenario, then you can't deduct like your owner payroll or even your own payroll to yourself, your own W-2 wages to yourself. You would normally deduct that as a business expense and then not have to pay profit, like taxes on the profit, right? Or rent, things like that, you would deduct those, and then that reduces your tax bill at the end of the day, right? Because you can deduct those. Now, if you're saying, you know what, I paid rent on my PPP loan application, forgiveness application, I paid rent, and that's one of the expenses that I'm claiming, then you can't claim that as an expense on your taxes that would be deductible, okay? So what does that mean? It means your taxable income will end up being higher than it would otherwise if you were able to deduct those expenses, okay? Important to know. There is a difference, though, for those of you who are my sole proprietor LLCs and are using this primarily to pay yourself or entirely to pay yourself. Here's my interpretation of how this is going to work, right? Is if you're a Schedule C, you don't pay taxes on what you take out of your business as pay anyway. You pay taxes on your profit. You pay taxes on your revenue minus your expenses. But your own pay is not an expense to you. That's only a corporation that it's an expense to. Your own pay isn't deducted on your Schedule C, right? So because of that, I believe how this will shake out is you don't have, your PPP is not taxable income, and it also isn't going to affect your deductions, right? Because you didn't take that as a deduction anyway. So the fact that you can't deduct those amounts doesn't really matter to you. So basically it ends up essentially being fully tax-free to no tax implications really to a sole proprietor. It's just free money. So it's even better than making that money from a client because you don't have to pay taxes on it. So that's the way that I see it. And that's why I encourage, if you go watch my other video, go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. I have a whole video that is about self-employed people and how they can get full forgiveness. And I talk about this concept in there and why I think it's better for self-employed people to choose the 24 weeks, even if you have enough rent and other things to be able to use and do the 8 weeks. I would choose the 24 weeks and use the whole PPP to pay yourself and not use it for things like rent, et cetera, at least from the standpoint of your forgiveness application. because it will be the best for you from a tax perspective if you do so. That might have gotten complicated. So if you are a sole proprietor LLC and you want to know more about this, go check out that other video on my YouTube channel. And it's also linked to, I've linked to it a couple of times in the Facebook group as well. Okay. All right. I've got a couple more minutes. So I'm just going to look. EIDL, it is a loan, so it does not impact your taxes because you have to pay it back. So it's not considered income, but it's also not considered an expense when you pay it back. So loans are one of those things that's kind of how they work. Let's see. I don't know who you are, Facebook user, but thank you. EIDL, I wouldn't call it tax-free. And remember, if you use EIDL and you're a corporation to pay yourself, you still have all the same taxes that you would normally have to pay, right? So it just depends on kind of what you are, but it is not considered business income, nor does it impact the deductions that you can take. We'll say that. But when you pay it back, you also don't get a deduction for that. So that's one of those things that can get confusing with timing of cash and how it impacts your profit and loss statement. Let's see. All right. So, what to do with extra amount I got that I should have? Okay, from line 31. So you should have gotten 5,000. You got 20,000 because the bank did calculations wrong. Happened to a lot of people. You are not the only one. You will be forgiven. It doesn't matter. My read of the forgiveness application is they don't ask you, what did you put originally on your application or what did the bank originally give you? They just say you are limited in owner pay and you have to certify that you have not paid yourself more than 2.5 months worth of 2019 net profit in your case. So if that's the case, the max you can pay yourself is 5K and get forgiven. Should be. That's like rule of thumb. Now, are some banks going to get a little loosey-goosey? I don't know, especially if they screwed up. I don't know. But the way you certify it, you say, you know what, I didn't pay myself more than my 2019 net profit, 2.5 months worth of it. You probably, though, could use the other amounts if you had things like business rent, business utilities, business mortgage interest, or if you hired another W-2 employee, right? You could probably use it for them. Otherwise it likely would not be forgiven. So it probably would come out to say, you know what, it's not forgiven unless Congress potentially decides, you know what, we're just going to pass blanket forgiveness. I don't necessarily see that happening. I think that the EZ form was their response to the bank's request to have blanket forgiveness for amounts under, I think the banks requested for amounts under 150,000. They just wanted everybody to be forgiven for it and the banks not have to do anything. I think the Treasury's response was, we're not going to totally get you off the hook, but we're going to give you this EZ form that's going to make it a lot easier for a lot of people to apply and for banks to process those applications. So in that case, if they do say blanket forgiveness, you might be fine. And then people who got the wrong loan amount end up, getting to keep all of it. Let's see. Penalties for getting more loan? No, I don't think there's going to be any penalties. I wouldn't see any penalties for that, especially if it wasn't like if you fraudulently did it doesn't sound like that's what you did, but if you fraudulently said, like if you gave them a fake Schedule C or something, or you did that to defraud them, different story. But in most cases, if it just was like a honest mistake, either on your part or on the part of the bank, likely there's not going to be penalties for that. You just might have to pay the thing back, or it becomes a loan under PPP terms, right? Interesting. You were denied for PPP or EIDL? I'm curious. There are getting some denials. EIDL, if you did get denied for it and you really think that that's something that you want and need, they are reversing a lot of those. I honestly think that they're just wanting people to go through, like, to show that they really want it. And then they are actually reversing some of those. So it's not like a total, some people thought, I'm not even going to bother with it because they're not reversing them. They are. There's a lot of people who got one verdict and were denied and then were able to get it. Also with PPP, if you don't get it somewhere and you think you qualify, go check another bank. Banks are doing all kinds of things different. Okay. Let's see. Can LLC with one additional employee use both payrolls for 2.5 months for PPP? So if you have employees, so the 2.5 month limit is only for owners. So you can't pay yourself more than 2.5 months because, right, the whole basis of the loan is 2.5 months times average monthly payroll, right? So you would get a windfall if you paid yourself more, but you can pay employees more. So there is no limit outside of, I think it's like 40, it comes out to like 48,000 or something like that is the max you can pay an employee during a 24-week period. It basically takes it's 100,000 divided by 52 times 24. That's the max that you can pay any employee. But you can give employees bonuses. They can make more than they did before. They're not going to be scrutinizing that. They're going to be scrutinizing if they made less, but not necessarily more. Okay. I am going to take like one more question. Let's see. Yeah, I know what you mean. It is a full-time job. Believe me, this has been my full-time job. It is a lot. It is a lot to navigate through for sure. I don't know. They just made this way more complicated than it needed to be. Right. But that's hence how this world works. So no, you won't be able to get, well, I take it back. If you're a business with employees that was operating at a loss, you can still get PPP and pay your employees. You will not be able to pay yourself likely with it unless you're an S Corp and you have a salary, right? But if you don't have a salary as a business owner, you are only going to be able to get a loan for who's on payroll. If it's just you and you're in a net loss, you have no basis for average monthly payroll, right? Because average monthly payroll is based on your net profit. And if you don't have one, then you cannot get it. Okay. Let's see. If you pick the 8 weeks, then your limit is 8 weeks. If you pick the 24 weeks, you can pay 2.5 months. So there's a little bit of, let's see. Change. All right. Should we reapply for PPP if our taxes on line 6, Schedule C is much higher? So it's not line 6. It's going to be, so the line you're going to use for PPP is line 31, not line 6. So that's what matters. If you already got PPP, you don't reapply because it changed. If you got it and then you gave it back, you can reapply if you want to. Just depends on what your situation is. Okay, this last question I'm going to take, talked about this in the beginning. PPP application deadline was last night, but the Senate in the 9th-ish hour decided to extend it 5 weeks through August 8th. Has not been passed through the House yet, has not been signed by the president yet. I would be surprised if both did not happen, but there could be some additional stipulations and things on that and around who's eligible. So we'll wait and see. Banks probably are not taking applications today because they're probably waiting for this to become law. So maybe you can check around, or you can just check back next week because by then they probably will be. Okay, I'm right at my hour. I need to go get some coffee. It is one of those days. Let me know down below here. Firstly, give me a like on the video if you liked this because that helps more people to see it. Also, tell me what I'm going to make my decision on what YouTube video I'm going to do here after this. So let me know if you're looking for, if you want one on Safe Harbor, if you want me to do, a video on the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. That's the sick leave, right? That's the paid sick leave you can get. Let me know about that or any other topic that you're like, I just can't find the information I need on this. I'd love it if there was a simple video that walked me through this because I'm trying to decide what I'm going to make for my weekly YouTube video today. All right. Love you guys. You're awesome. And I will talk to you later. Happy early 4th. Bye, guys.